Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Pipe Bomb Sessions. We are now full steam ahead. Next Saturday is officially gonna be in San Diego WarGames, and WarGames is now being set up rather marvelously, especially on the men's side, as we got that team on both ends, both division. Now not only have their fourth, but their fifth member, and the faces of the group. They also got two more members added, as we saw over the past SmackDown and Raw. Now, Raw, of course, went to MSG. That was John Cena's last Madison Square Garden. However, before we get to Raw, I would like to point out what somewhat occurred a little bit over on SmackDown. And it was rather interesting because, all right, SmackDown ends up starting out with, Rhea, Io, and then the former women's tag champs, Charlotte and Alexa coming out. Everybody's all cool and chilling, but boom, out of nowhere, Charlotte tells Alexa, she can't do this. She can't be part of the team, and the reason being is because she doesn't trust Rhea Ripley. She thinks that, that she's going to stab her in the back. Funny enough is Charlotte and Rhea obviously have a lot of history. And I feel like, wouldn't Charlotte be the one stabbing anyone in the back if that was going to be happening? However, yeah, I guess it could happen from the Rhea end as well. But the more interesting news here is, seems like Charlotte kind of came out of nowhere, surprised even Alexa Bliss, and she is now saying hey, you know what? I think I'm just gonna walk away and not be part of WarGames. As far as we can see it as of right now, Charlotte Flair is not going to be part of the women's team of WarGames. Of course, Rhea, Io, and Alexa are now going to need to find two more partners. Because right now, they're facing the Kabuki Warriors, Nia Jax, Lash, as well as... And basically now they're missing a fourth, or a fifth, per se. The thing is, I think their fifth is going to be Becky Lynch. Now, the reason I think it's going to be Becky Lynch, I mean, there's a lot of layers to it, right? Because I do think eventually AJ Lee is going to get added. And what happened from that prediction? AJ Lee indeed got added onto the woman's side, is going to be added to the woman's side. Just in my opinion, she made her return at MSG. She made her return in a way where it cost Becky Lynch her women's IC title because she was defending it again. Maxine Dupree. Maxine actually pulled off the goddamn upset. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Maxine Dupree is indeed the new Women's Intercontinental Champion. Congrats to Maxine. Now, that's her first major singles women's title on the main roster, and I'm like, whoa. Hey, I get it, we were in MSG, I get it, there's always times for surprises, but shoot. Man, I know Becky Lynch didn't see it coming, and I'm positive even probably Maxine is still a little bit shocked today that, hey, she did indeed walk out of MSG as your new Women's IC champion. I like it. I kind of like where the story was going. Becky Lynch already kind of built up the Women's IC title, and it's pretty cool to see her pass it along to someone a little bit younger, as well as a new and upcoming star. I feel like Maxine's been working on her in-ring work a lot. Of course, she's been working on her mic work a lot. She's been just overall working on her character, as well as her skill set a lot. Someone who works hard like that, I mean, I'm not surprised that, they get the payoff at the end of the day, So that was pretty dope. I definitely didn't see that coming. Of course, we saw AJ Lee return. And because of AJ Lee returning, that, of course, crowned us a new champ. And that is where, guys, I think AJ Lee gets added on this side. Becky Lynch will be the last person added on that side. And what makes it now interesting is that, Rhea and them, if they get AJ Lee, they still need a fifth. Now, that fifth could be one of two people. It could be your new women's IC champ, Maxine Dupree, or it could still be Charlotte Flair. Now, hear me out. Charlotte could, see how the teams are coming together and still want to be sort of involved into the matchup itself, or it's just going to be Maxine Dupree. Now, the reason why I said Charlotte is because it's a marquee matchup. However, I can also see Charlotte not being involved, and maybe she made that excuse as a way to kind of get out of WarGames since she wasn't really comfortable with it. I mean, that is a possibility in my opinion. Like, I don't see why that wouldn't be a possibility, It's very interesting, right? Charlotte Flair possibly, maybe she doesn't want to get hurt or something like that. So she's like, you know what? Hey, guys, like, I'm just not going to be part of this matchup. And boom. She kind of already had a story in her mind, and that was a good way to back out of it. If that is indeed true and she is not, going to get involved some way or another, right? So let's just see how that goes down. Now, someone else who wanted to see what was going to go down in his matchup in the Last Time Is Now tournament was LA Knight. Yeah. Now, speaking of my boy, LA, he has been on some sort of weird run lately, right? Like, we haven't seen him a couple weeks on Raw. He hasn't been involved in the WarGames matchup. He's been feuding with the Vision for months at this point. And I get it. He's in the tournament, and, we got him in there involved. But shoot, I was almost positive that he was even going to get freaking squashed in the damn tournament. I don't know why. Like, signs were not just pointing good for LA recently, and I hope that he can turn around, and hopefully this is the beginning of it. LA Knight, however, shoot. LA Knight. Yeah. I'm sure he was really surprised when he saw his mystery opponent be Mr. Woo 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 Matt Cardona, otherwise known as Zack Ryder. Now, Zack Ryder put up a good matchup. I even thought Zack Ryder had LA Knight very early in the matchup. However, LA ended up winning and advancing, and that was a pretty cool pop, Hey, Zack Ryder. That was a pretty cool one-off situation where Ryder returned, and it makes sense that he was going to be part of the tournament. He did have history with Cena, and I like it. Again, I like it. I don't think it's a bad thing whatsoever. As well as not only LA Knight advanced, of course, all of our favorite man, Jey Uso. Man, they really are just pushing Jey Uso all the way on us, huh? Jey Uso, who really has little to no history besides the Rumble knockout and elimination back last year, Jan. That's the most history I want to say Jey Uso has with Cena, rather than The Miz. Of course, The Miz got eliminated, and now Jey Uso moves forward. You guys gotta let me know who you think is going to be the winner of this tournament. I'm really unsure. I do hope it's not Jey Uso. However, it's like some signs I have seen it. It could be. Unfortunately, the possibility is definitely there, Now, speaking of some WarGames matchups, right? The men's side, as I said, they needed one more person each, right? And that's because on SmackDown, we saw one additional person on each side. You added Jay's brother, Jimmy, ended up dabbing up Cody backstage and told him, like, yeah, he spoke to Punk, or, he spoken to Cody, and, like, yo, he's in. If they need someone to have their back, Jimmy's there. What I found interesting about this is, yeah, Jay was all cool with it, but, like, he kind of gave, like, a weird, like, a very, very odd look to Jimmy when he said, like, yeah, he's in, right? I find that very, I don't want to say disturbing, but it kind of is disturbing. Like, hold up. Is Jay not all that happy that his brother added himself into the matchup? That's interesting, That's very, very interesting in my opinion. Why would he not be happy? Unsure, It doesn't really make sense of why he would not be cool with, his brother getting in. But for some reason, he looked like he made some type of face. Let's see if that develops into anything before WarGames within the next week or so, or rather yet, develops at WarGames, possibly even. Or maybe I'm just overthinking it. I don't know. Jay has been acting a little suspect and things like that. That's why it just makes me feel like, is something going on in the background possibly? And does, Big Jim need to watch his back even from his brother potentially? Let's hope that's not the case. So let's hope that, they got each other's back. Now, that's on one end. At the end of the night, we saw Paul Heyman as he told Nick Aldis, hey, you're going to like who I got. And of course, it's who else, none other than the Scottish psychopath, Drew McIntyre, who's at it on the other freaking side. Drew is a good pickup. I'm not surprised by this whatsoever. And honestly speaking, it's 4-on-4. I think that's as simple and straightforward we can put it. It's 4-on-4. And let's see where it heads to next. Of course, the Raw MSG occurs. We get it with John Cena. Cena comes out with his newly won IC title, by the way. And eventually, we see Dirty Dom come out. He wants a rematch. Not surprised by that. Dirty Dom basically says, rematch, his hometown, San Diego, WarGames. Boom. Kind of saw this coming. So it's him versus Cena, WarGames for the IC title. Very interesting. I've been told a rumor that this could be where Liv Morgan possibly could return to help Dirty Dom gain back his IC title. Could see that happening. I could also see Dirty Dom just straight up losing because of, and I think this is going to be more relevant because of the Judgment Day. I think in some way or another, possibly how Dirty Dom costs JD and Finn their tag titles, but inadvertently, possibly, I think one or both of them are going to get involved in this matchup. And inadvertently, and I'd use air quotes during this, is because it could be on purpose as well, that both those guys cost Dirty Dom his rematch, and he ended up losing anyways. This is interesting, Let's see how it kind of turns out. Of course, for now, the Judgment Day are working together. They come out, they try to beat up Cena, and then that sets up Cena's final match at MSG. The Judgment Day against Cena and his old rival and friend, Sheamus. And of course, one of his oldest friends, Rey Mysterio. 6-man tag team matchup with three vets and classic guys, man, against the Judgment Day. Come on now. We know who's going to win that, right? Of course, this is the matchup that Cena, I guess, got in mind. I got for MSG. And hey, man, you got a Cena matchup. MSG one last time. Take it while you can. Screw it. You know what I'm saying? Shoot, why not? I think another big thing is, speaking of John Cena last time, and now tournament's still going on Raw, of course, as well. And who is the next mystery opponent for Solo? Boom. It is none other than Dolph Ziggler, another one of John Cena's old rivals. I will say I did not see Dolph Ziggler coming. That was a good addition. I will say I am surprised that Ziggler ended up losing that matchup. I actually thought Ziggler had a chance to freaking continue on, However, I can see why Solo advanced through. Cena did say the whole point of this tournament, everything that's about this tournament, is so new stars can be developed. New people can come in and new people can do what they need to do. Maybe even beat Cena, take the IC title off of him, and go that route. Or just beat Cena, you retired the GOAT in a sense. There's a lot of layers to this that could happen, and I believe there's a lot of layers to this that will happen. That's why Solo was basically, he's the one who advanced. Simple as that. And at the same rate, that's why we got Ziggler returning, man. Ziggler returned, and boom, that's how shit went down. I'm cool with it, no problem at all. Another return after he broke his nose at SummerSlam was the Ring General Gunther. Why I'm so excited. I like Gunther as it is. However, what's cool about Gunther is simple enough. He got his old theme back. Now, I know WWE has been making somewhat of a message right now saying, hey, we are going to get themes back, and OG themes back for some superstars who will be looking for that, right? And it seems like this is what happened here. I thought Gunther's original theme was always awesome, especially by Gunther's original theme. Talk about, of course, Walter when his alter ego was, and I'm cool with it. I say alter ego, but name change, whatever. That's dope. Of course, Gunther makes Javon Evans tap out. Javon Evans, man, that kid is really the future, bro. WWE's future. As long as they held on Javon Evans and kind of build him the right way, they got it real good, man. He's good. He puts on entertainment, and obviously he got the crowd behind him. I don't think there's anything wrong with Javon Evans, and he just has to keep working on his game, bro, and he'll be cool and chilling. I don't see it going wrong whatsoever. Now, let's wrap up with the final members that we saw for both the Vision and Paul Heyman's team, and then Cody Rhodes and Punk's team. Now, of course, we have 4-on-4. Vision comes out. They're talking their smack. That, of course, brings out Cody, Punk, and the Usos. They all start brawling with each other. Punk gets the upper hand. And, of course, who returns? None other than the Beast incarnate. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Pipe Bomb Sessions had it right once again. A freaking whole month ago at least. I called it, guys. The Beast will be getting a phone call from his former advocate. And he knows that he's always going to help out Paul Heyman just because of who they are with each other. And, man, he cleans house to end out Raw. He's the fifth guy. They're going to dominate. And that's how we see Raw end out. We see the little credits get freaking rolling. However, no, whose music hits right as that's happening? None other than the OTC Roman Reigns. Roman is back. He's rocking a new arm sleeve, it seems like. But the bigger story, of course, here is that indeed Roman is now back again. And more so than that, pretty much, in my opinion, it's going to be interesting. Now, Roman is also going to be part of WarGames, and that is the full teams where Roman, his cousins, the Usos, Cody, and Punk versus the Vision, who's, of course, the Bronze, Logan Paul. They got the Scotch Psychopath, Drew McIntyre added, and, of course, more recently, the Beast incarnate, Brock Lesnar, has now been added to the mix, ladies and gentlemen. I think that is going to be quite a team. WarGames shaping up pretty dope. Now, I do believe, and I'm still going to stand by it, that WarGames probably should be the last time this happens this year. Maybe go back to the traditional 5-on-5 elimination. It just feels like we have some sort of the same combination babyface team against some sort of heel group that got put together, or that's been just going on. I get it. That's kind of the point of the WarGames matchup, but we can't just have these guys say WarGames and have William Regal scream it and 2 weeks prior and be like, yeah, hey, we're going to get this going. I just think there's time for better execution for these things, and this is one of those times. However, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think of both sides of the men's squad for WarGames and how you guys think that's going to shape out and turn out. Do you see anything crazy happening? Who is everybody going to be getting along on both sides of teams? I feel like Lesnar is the type of guy who doesn't really want to listen to anyone. He does what he feels. That could be a problem going into the matchup. However, let's see how it goes down, I'm super excited. We were coming from MSG on Raw. MSG Raws are always, elite top tier. And we saw that happen again this week, of course, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again. Don't forget to like and subscribe as always. And I'll talk to you guys next week.